What's up everybody, Jesse here again, and today's video I want to tell you about my first Shopify store that I had back in late 2017. In this store I sold this, a normal US penny, and a little bit of labor for $20. That's going to be the subject of today's video, so now let's get it. Okay, so many of you probably already know what Shopify is, but if you don't, I'm going to go over this really quick because I want to make the whole video about what Shopify is. So Shopify is a website where you can go and you can set up your own website to sell stuff. So it's your own web store, your own .com where you're selling items. So this is not like an eBay or an Amazon. This is where you have your own shopping cart system on the website and you go to Shopify and it's set up. This is something that you can set up within a couple hours, maybe even a little bit less if you want something super simple. But basically it's all, click and play, and it's really easy to set up a store selling whatever your product is. If you don't know what Shopify is, go check it out at shopify.com. If you already know what it is, let's get into the rest of the story. So at this point, if you haven't heard of my business that I had before, it was called Penny Project. It was spelled PNY PRJKT. If you Google it, you could probably still find some images. And some of the people follow me on Instagram probably know me from that because my actual account used to be the Penny Project account. So basically what we would do is we would get a penny, a US penny, and emboss it with some letters, put some string on it, and sell it as a bracelet for $20. This is an example of a finished product and what one of the bracelets would look like. So this one is actually stamped with Worth It. And then on the back side, it's stamped with Penny Project. And so you would be able to pick what you wanted the penny to actually say, pick the color of the string that went on it, and pick the color of the string that went for the clasp, the back part of this. And that was what would cost $20. It was a customized penny with your message on it for $20. Now, one thing to keep in mind when I'm saying I sold these for $20, a lot of times we did have sales and they were being sold for $15 or sometimes even as low as $10. But $20 was the retail price, and there were people who did pay $20 for them. Also, a lot of these were sold in twos because we also had another version of this where it had a heart and a date above it. So it would be your anniversary date. And so people would buy those in twos because they would buy, each member of the couple would wear one of these bracelets with their anniversary date on it. So with those being sold in two, a lot of times we would, discount that to maybe 35 or 30 because you were buying two. So when I say I sold these for $20 each, that's somewhat true. A lot of them did sell for $20, but they didn't all sell for $20. And even on like a Black Friday special, I think we sold them as low as $10. But there was plus shipping in that order also. They didn't literally sell for $20 each. But the point is that I took something that was worth 1 cent, some string that was worth a few pennies more, put a little bit of labor in it, and sold it for $20. And this is just an idea of, if you're creative enough, there's a lot of things out there you can do to make money. Now, this is something where when I first started selling this, I had people telling me that I would never sell 100 of them. And if I ever got to selling 100 of them, it would be, luck or just a fluke. When I hit 100 of these being sold, people were kind of still laughing at me and still telling me that, I got lucky and it wouldn't go any further. But when I hit 100, there were people who were, in shock because they never thought you'd even be able to sell 100 of these. It's penny and a string is what people, simplified it down to. But it wasn't really, and it was a lot more than that. This ended up selling over 1,000 units before I ended up shutting it down. So when somebody tells you that you'll never hit a certain number, you'll never hit 100 of selling something, don't listen to them and keep going. Because if I had listened to them, I would have never sold 100. I would have never sold 500. I would have never sold 1,000. So I marketed this business through Instagram, through Instagram ads. Also, there was a lot of organic reach on Instagram, but if you didn't find it organically through Instagram, you might have found it through an ad on Instagram. And this was something that toward the end of 2017, I just kind of got the idea. Now, the idea was based on another company that was actually using a little circular washer with string around it. So it looked very similar to what I was selling. But basically, they were using a washer that, would cost maybe 5 cents. And I turned it into a penny that cost 1 cent. And, sold it for the same price point that they were already selling for. So all of the idea and the basis of it was already there. It was just something that I took and I adapted to make a different version of it. And that's an idea of how, if you're looking for something to sell out there, it's a great idea of how to think of something. It doesn't always, I'm not even a person who's into jewelry, so it's not even something that necessarily seems obvious to people. But sometimes you just think of something, and if you can get something for a low price and turn around and sell it for a lot more, there's a profit to be made there, then that's a great product to sell and start selling it. So in this business, there were a lot of other costs, obviously, too. We had to ship the order to the customer once it was placed. So that was probably about $3 or $4 an order. The nice part about that was it didn't really change much if they were buying 1 or they were buying 2 or they were buying 3 or they were buying 10. The shipping price was pretty much the same because a penny and string don't really weigh much, right? So basically, it was something that we were able to ship for a pretty static price. But there's other factors in it, like, the credit card processing fees and the Shopify fees. Obviously, those shipping fees I just mentioned. The fees of advertising on Instagram, that was probably the biggest expense, and that was where we spent the most money advertising on Instagram. The cost of obtaining a customer in this business was huge, and ultimately that was why I ended up stopping doing this business. And then there's also the cost of labor. Each bracelet took me about 5 minutes to make from start to finish. I did it in more of a production line setup to where pieces were already pre-assembled, and then when you ordered it and customized it, that would get stamped into the backside, and then it would get assembled and shipped off to you. So it allowed me to optimize my time of how these were built and take less time to build them, but also maximize the profits because the labor costs were, significantly less. It got to a point where I eventually had somebody helping me with producing these because the orders started coming in at a higher rate than I myself was able to fulfill. So this is something where it can actually grow. And so the part of this being a penny and the significance to it being a penny was that a penny, when you see one of these on the ground, it's something that you don't bother picking up. It's something that you just walk past and you dismiss as something that's invaluable. When you see them on the ground, they're just not worth the time of picking them up to most people. And so the idea was that you could get a penny and you could put an inspiring message on it and make it something that had more value than its perceived value of 1 penny. It was something where you could look down at your wrist and see the message, like on the one I showed earlier where it said worth it, to remind you that you are worth it. As somebody who was directly affected by somebody in my life that did commit suicide, I could tell you that people sometimes in life forget that life has a value and forget that you're here for a reason and you mean something to somebody. And times get really hard, especially in bad economies like we're going through right now. But when things get hard, it's really easy to want to give up. And I think the idea was that, you could look down at your wrist and see this message to yourself of something that was insignificant and invaluable. It was a message that you wrote to yourself or that somebody gave to you and wrote to you. It was something that showed you that life does have value and you have a purpose in the world and you need to continue on and continue battling. So ultimately, after selling over 1,000 of these, the time that I was putting into it just started to not be worth it because of the amount of money I was spending on marketing. It was something that I was kind of doing out of love. It was something that I kind of did because I felt there was a need to do at a point. And I wanted to try to do something to try to make a difference in people's lives. and try to help out. And that was kind of, the basis of it. It wasn't really about making money in doing so. And a lot of that money, that was made from it ended up going to Instagram ads. But it taught me a lot about using Shopify stores and a lot about, making products and all kinds of things. So this is just a quick example of how you can turn a simple Shopify store, some penny and some string, into $20. And for all those people who told me I would never sell 100, never sell 500, never sell 1,000, I don't remember the exact number, but we ended up selling over 1,000. I even had one order that was a bulk order where one customer ordered 100 units. So whenever somebody's telling you can't do something, don't listen to them. Just keep going and do it, because prove them wrong. And in the end, the satisfaction you get from proving somebody wrong is the greatest thing in the world, because when you know you're right and you can feel in your heart, that just means that you should just do it, and don't let anybody stop you. Don't listen to all the naysayers. There's always going to be naysayers. No matter how great your idea is, there's always going to be people who tell you you can't do that or that's not going to work. So that was my somewhat quick story of my first Shopify store and Penny Project. So for those of you who are following me on Instagram from Penny Project, I guess you can finally put a phase to that product and to, what it meant and what my story was behind it. So hopefully this whole story has inspired somebody and made you think about, creating a Shopify store and getting started with Shopify to sell something, sell anything. Or maybe you don't want to sell on Shopify, you want to sell somewhere else, eBay, Amazon. I'll create some videos on those in the future. But this is just one of my stories and just one of the things I've done. Hopefully you enjoyed hearing about it and learning a little bit more about Penny Project and what it meant and where the idea came from and how I turned 1 cent into $20 over and over and over again. So please don't forget to subscribe if you're not already subscribed to this channel. Don't forget to like this video if you like this content and want to see more content like this. I have a bunch more ideas of a bunch of other videos that I want to do, and they're coming soon. So don't forget to click that notification bell and get notified as soon as I upload a video next time. So once again, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one. And remember, let's get it.